and then jumped the channel to the toe of the boot.
I seen pictures of the Italian people throwing flowers to the GIs as they were who walked through towns in Italy and bringing bread and that they were really happy to see the GIs there.
Oh, they were, and we got along very well with Italian people there.
Yeah.
Even some of the guys that had been in the Italian army and in Morocco, wherever it was, were out of it and were back there no longer fit for action. They were working on our air base.
Oh yeah.
Although one of them got thrown off the air base for stealing stuff.
Oh,
it's hard to blame them, though. They were so hard up.
yeah.
By that time, their economy was so screwed up.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was ironic to me that before I even met Mary, and she's sending me orders to go on these missions.
Did you meet her over there?
The first time I got close to her was in the Victory Parade. I found out about May 5th or 6th or 8th, after the war was over. Our jackass leaders decided they're going to have an aerial parade to celebrate, not victory so much, to celebrate the fact that the wrecking and killing was over with, which was a good idea. So they mounted the entire 15th Air Force of heavy bombers and even the light bombers, and we had a big parade at relatively low altitude. We flew from our area over around Naples, and then flew up over Caserta to make a pass over Rome, and then head from there back out over across the Apennines and then over Bari. And us guys are up in the airplane swearing because we're at low altitude in May, or hottest day in history. We're at low altitude, about 7,000 or 8,000 feet, sweating, and we're in the airplanes, and all of the escort planes that red tails and checker tails and all, they're also out playing, pretending they're escorting, but their main activity is finding gaps in the sequence at our level and zooming through between groups, throwing the turbulence of their jets into our path. We're already bouncing and sweating in hot, muggy weather, trying to hold plane in shape, and then we're thrown around.
Wow.
And we're saying naughty words all along in there. And at the bosses were sending us on a flight. But to get to the point, she and the other whacks, we flew over Caserta headquarters. That was mandatory for the big shots to be out there. And Marion was out there watching, little knowing that was me in that winged plane up there. And then I didn't even meet her till a couple of years after the war, when this matchmaker friend of mine who struck out with her was invited to sing at her sister's wedding, and invited to go to the celebration for her at Stone's house basement recreation room across from the carryout. And this friend of mine dragged me along. He said, "I want you to meet someone special."
Yeah?
I'll be darned.
Here in Chicago?
In Washington Park, across from Fernwood, about 102nd and Sangamon, near Halsted Street.
Oh, yeah.
And I was at 99th and Parnell in the Fernwood area, which was no more than half a mile from her.
Yeah.
And she was going to St. Margaret's Church, same as me, but at a different time.
I'll be
I
darned.
never knew she existed. So that was one turn of fate I was very fortunate with.
Uh-huh.
There was the days. But things that have, in recent years, of the civic action, in those days I never heard of. People maybe more or less took it for granted that anything a politician said was gospel. And
Well, yeah.
and it wasn't until late in that late era now, and recently, after the U.S. had been start getting involved in wars all over the world for umpteen years, that this restlessness among the people gotten to start thinking, hey, maybe somebody besides politicians should be doing something about some of this stuff.
Were you ever consider yourself a Roosevelt Democrat at the time?
Not at all. I consider myself a mere mortal being listening to God Almighty with his what do they call them, his supper time talks. There was a certain
Roosevelt,
Franklin D. when he gave his weekly
fireside chat.
Yeah. Every peasant like us, my parents, all the other parents like that, and even the kids couldn't quite understand what was being said. But this voice sounded like God Almighty, Franklin D.
So that's what you meant by that. Okay.
Yeah.
But did you admire the man, or?
I admire him in a weird kind of way for that with his handicap of his that infantile paralysis and the fact that he was a pampered millionaire, or in spite of that he could see that something had to be done for plain folks.
Right.
That their value should be recognized and they be given a chance to.
What do you think instilled that in you, that you have the empathy for the plain folks and the little guy? Because I've heard you on many occasions standing up for that, and you even mentioned about when the neighborhood was changing racially, that you took that attitude of brotherhood and getting along.
Well, as far as the racial thing came, my wife had for some time been in advance action on it. But as far as the racial thing came, where I grew up in Fernwood, I wouldn't say they were playmates, but a couple of kids I played with were black kids. They were unfortunately the black kids from the Wallace Street gang, and we were the kids from the 99th Street. And we were enemies, but we were enemies only with our rubber guns. You remember them? With the inner tube things, and ragwood spears and garbage can covers. We liked to have wars.
Yeah.
Boom. Gotcha.
I didn't know there were any black kids around there.
There were very few.
Yeah.
But there also we would live not too far from Lilydale, which is a kind of ironic name for that black community in Chicago around 95th and State Street, Lilydale, and had that name Lilydale. One of our kids' activities through a series of events, we had built a unique hut, a 6x8 metal-clad hut near our house, but some jerk allowed somebody to build a bungalow on the site. So we had to move our hut, and we uprooted it. I disassembled it, I think, and moved it across the tracks over to a place in the open land between the CWI tracks and State Street, and between 99th Street and 95th Street was all open, undeveloped. It was to be a development street. And this woman had a little spread, a little garage-sized house with a bunch of pens around it, where she was running a little cattle operation, a lone old woman. And so we got acquainted with her, and eventually got permission to build our hut, move our hut to. We first had built it too close to the railroad tracks. And when we weren't there, we found out that bums who would be riding the rods in the Depression would see this little shack out in the prairie and hop off and go and sleep in there. We didn't mind that, but when we found that they were using our hut as an outhouse, we had to move our hut again.